Alright, it's connecting. I see me. I'm there. Yay!
You're there, okay.
I can just see me now. I'm not moving yet. There. I just settled into my seat, which is a few seconds ago. Get rid of that thing, but you don't want to have that there. Just in case. So we've been on for 30 entire seconds. Hey guys! Connected to the current Wi-Fi. Somebody came and went.
I'm trying to get there and I can't get there. I don't have an... Okay, so this is the second time I didn't get a notification.
Well, I can't tell you anything about that since I don't know anything about that. There's nothing on my end. That's your settings in YouTube and whatever the heck they're doing and decide. That's going to get confusing if I have to hear myself at the same time. Hey, a few more people have shown up. So we're going to start cooking soon. A person came and went.
Cooking with gas.
That's right. We're waiting to see what we're talking about here. Hey guys, how y'all doing? We had a few incidents, as it were, here recently. Hi, Jonathan. Yes, and Jonathan says he didn't get a notification either.
I wonder how many other people didn't get notified.
I don't know.
Maybe we need to set something on the
No,
site.
there's nothing for us to set.
Okay.
That's all YouTube and the software and the channels and what they do, but we have no control over that.
Okay.
That's all everyone's individual. But hi, Jonathan. So, I was supposed to go swimming today like usual, and my daughter apparently went and twisted her ankle, so we had to pick her up instead of going swimming. She's just got her x-ray, so we don't know for sure exactly how it is yet. So send her some positive energy if you want.
Okay, so people are getting notified.
Yep, Nadja says she got notified. Dan says he got his notification. All right, so we don't know why some people did and some people didn't.
Of course, I really don't need a notification.
Well, you're sitting right here.
Yeah. I signed up for it, though. I should have got it. Yeah.
Maybe check. Maybe something changed itself.
Don't worry about it later.
Yeah, whatever.
So
we're driving on the way to go to the swimming, the swim pool, and then my daughter calls and she was out disc golfing, I guess, with her boyfriend, and she tripped and twisted her ankle, and it was her left foot, and she has a stick shift, so she couldn't drive. So we ended up going there to drop off my granddaughter so she could drive her car because her boyfriend doesn't have a license. So it's always the unexpected. That's the thing. It's like you're always having to deal with something that comes up and figure out how to deal with life.
Yep, and then on our way running out here, we're almost out of time and let the bunny escape.
Yeah, my granddaughter called and asked us to make sure the bunny had water and food, so Ian was being a good person and making sure the bunny had water and food, and the bunny got out and didn't want to go back in. We were running around chasing the bunny, trying to get it back in there, but he managed to catch him and scoop him up and get him back in his house. So, all right. Destiny says hello. She got hers too. Jill says hi. Ruth says hi. Hi, everybody. And how are you all doing this week? I know we have our appointment tomorrow with the surgeon for Ian, so we're hoping, fingers horned, that goes well.
Hoping that goes somewhere,
Yes, hoping we get somewhere with that. But other than that, we expected it to be really raining today because we were supposed to be getting more rain. And it's a beautiful blue sky out there right now, so maybe I'll actually see the full moon. That would be awesome because that's happening now. It's like, yay, full moon. So you all have plans for Mabon, which is coming up too? I mean, it's coming up in The official Mabon is in 2 days, like the 22nd. It's about the latest it can be. Last year, I think it was, or a few years ago, it was the 18th. So it has like a pretty wide range of possible dates, since it's an astronomical event and it depends upon our actual orbit around the sun to determine and when it actually is. But Ruth had her birthday yesterday. Well, happy birthday, Ruth. Birthdays are good to celebrate. I hope you had a good celebration. I hope you wanted to celebrate your birthday in case you don't like birthdays. But I guess if you didn't like them, you probably wouldn't tell us it was your birthday, right? Because that would be tricky. Johnny says, what is Mabon? Mabon is the autumn equinox and a harvest festival. It's the day of the year when there's equal dark and equal light. People in the southern hemisphere are going to be getting the spring equinox because they happen at the same time, depending on where you are on the planet. But yeah, it's part of what we call the wheel of the year. Mary Wick says, hello, people. Hi, Mary. Jill says, fun, happy birthday, Ruth. Jonathan says, Ostara here, going to spend time outside. Yes, that would be the spring equinox part right there. And Ruth says, thank you. Yes, I did. Good. Good birthday, and likes birthdays. It's always good to know.
Are you still lined up? I guess you are. I kicked the camera.
Oh. Well.
It looks like it's still
I
in a good
see.
spot.
It sort of actually put me more even. It didn't hurt. It didn't hurt my view at all. So there we go. But yeah, it's always surprising how stuff just happens. It just does. But so, does that explain Mabon to you, Johnny, adequately enough for this kind of a forum? Because you can look this stuff up and find out more about it. It's kind of the Celtic word for the festival. I did a little bit of research and discovered what Thanksgiving actually was all about in the United States and decided I didn't like using that word for it anymore. Johnny says, I've noticed myself and others having a lot of old patterns being broken and some reliving past pain. Is this related to Mabon? Well, it can be related to the time of year because we're starting to enter into the time when the sun, for us in the northern hemisphere, starts to go away and it gets darker. And so we often see this as an inward time of the year. And the spring and summer is when you want to do all the work and for the outer work, and the winter and fall are when you do your inner work, if you're going to be using the energy of the seasons. Because if we were just not in technology and civilization and stuff, with more darkness, you'd be sleeping more, spending more time indoors, and the opposite, of course, if there's more light, you'd be out there gathering and hunting and doing outward types of activity. And I think that our DNA is kind of prone or primed for that kind of an activity. Let's see. So Jaleesa says, hi, Siofra. Hi, everyone. Hi, Jaleesa. Nice to see you here. So yeah, any time of year is a good time of year to do inner work as far as it goes, but you just sort of end up seeming to have more or stronger results when you have less external distractions. Because like when the weather is nice, you want to go out, do stuff outside and be active and that kind of thing. Johnny says, makes sense. Thank you. You're welcome. It's that's just the Celtic term for it. And a lot of pagans have sort of adopted some of those names for the festivals, but you don't need to use them. They don't have to be Mabon and Ostara. They can just be fall and spring equinox,
Yeah, that's what Western Hermetic science has done. Use them as the equinoxes and the Golden Dawn.
Yeah. But, they exist whether people are believing in them or celebrate them or not, since they're astronomical events that happen with or without our permission. So Brianna says, aside from working on ourselves outside of witchcraft, what are some ways we can use witchcraft to help our mental health?
Well, so many ways.
Aside from working on ourselves.
Working on ourselves outside of witchcraft.
Right. Besides working on ourselves outside of witchcraft, what are some ways we can use witchcraft to help our mental health? Oh, okay. Gotcha. My brain sometimes gets bogged down with the specifics. Witchcraft is the best thing, as far as I'm concerned, that you can use to help your inner self. I put up the cup transformation ritual to help with that, where you can take control over your inner mental landscape and transform it into something that you need or want to have, so you can start to make conscious choices and decisions about your personality and what kind of a human being you want to be and that kind of thing. And then the rituals to help you deal with past trauma, leaving things behind, burning things, healing the inner child. I did a lot of those kind of rituals when I was in Santa Cruz, so in the mid-'80s, where I had my teddy bear was my sort of totem for that kind of thing. And ritual is just a very powerful tool to assist with that kind of stuff. Ayurvedic Shakti says, hi. And Verenia says, hello, may I ask what advice you would like to give who are struggling with astral projection? Well, if you're having trouble getting in and out of your body, it probably means that your body and your mental state is trying to keep you from doing it when you're not ready, I'm thinking. Relaxation, if there's fears associated with it, figuring out what those fears are and trying to face them. Try mental projection rather than astral projection. Sort of modify your expectations of what you're going to be doing. So mental projection, you don't have to leave your body in order to do it, but you have to be able to visualize where you're going in your mind. And you can sort of practice that if you want with another person, but it doesn't have to be, where you go to a specific location and see what you see of the activities that are going on in that location, and then check with someone to find out if you're accurate or not. Because sometimes you can also travel through time, so that kind of can muddy up the the projection when it comes to that. Yeah. Ayurvedic says, happiness to be here. Hi, I've been noticing you just joined our page a while back, or our channel, and you're watching a lot of videos, so congratulations for joining us, and welcome.
Did you get Nadja's question?
Sorry for the lack of description. I'm a musician.
No, one night I heard something passing my hall.
Oh, I missed that.
Weird tinkle.
Okay, let me look at it. One night I heard something passing my hall, a weird tinkle bell-like sound that I've never heard before, but I'm not sure if it was a fairy bell. Any idea what it could be? Well, that certainly could be what it is. Or there's a thing called the music of the spheres, which sounds like that too, and sometimes you can just sort of hear that. And I've had warning bells, astral warning bells for things, but that doesn't sound like that. It sounds different.
I've also had some tinkling that I have heard, some which sounds to be just external, but at least one of the times it was caused by a Kundalini reaction inside myself, so it sounded almost like, it wasn't quite bells, it was almost like the sound of a bunch of fine crystals breaking or something like that. So it's kind of tinkly but kind of glassy at the same time. And that was just caused by what my energy was doing at the time.
And she said that she was a musician and couldn't even pinpoint it, so it was sort of like a non-specific direction, weren't sure where it was coming from.
Yeah, so it might have been one of those kind of things. There's some stuff like that. It goes along with the what they call the unstruck sound.
Brianna says, thank you. Jill says, that's good to know for mental health. You're welcome. Nadja says, yes, glassy. What would that be?
Well, like I say, in my case, it was the Kundalini energy as it was coming up. I could tell because I could also feel it at the time, and sometimes I get it as feeling like, almost like a carbonated energy bubbling up. It reminds me of a carbonated drink when I'm not drinking anything. That comes up sometimes through my neck and my head, especially when I start getting ill. So it could be something like that, which is a long explanation for why you get sounds out of that, but it's basically energy flow.
Maybe you need to do a video on that for the longer explanation. So Ayurvedic says, yes, I've been obsessing a bit with your videos since I'm so glad to find something with real deep substance and experience here on YouTube. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Nadja says, it woke me up. Brianna says, I've been obsessing too, especially the videos on the Fae. That seems to be not an uncommon experience. It's my most popular video, and I'm so glad I did it because, I just thought one day, well, people are talking smack about the Fae, maybe I should weigh in. So Adam says, hi, do you do spells for inciting lust, passion, and...
Cinnamon Bond.
I did? Oh, sorry, Cinnamon Bond. Hi, Siofra. Whoops, come back here. My chameleon named Melon has the same energy as the Fae. What do you think about this? Nothing in particular. Yay.
I just want to make sure you saw the message.
Thank you. So, yeah, I said the one about Brianna. Adam says, do we do those spells? No. The answer to your question, Adam, is no. I don't do those spells.
Yeah, neither of us do.
And we don't believe in them. We don't think they're a good idea. So you'll have to find someone else for that. And
send tarots around or something. That, that type of thing. They normally do that for people if they pay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, and you may end up finding the results may be real, and then there may be problems. Because it's not recommended by us.
Well, Santeros generally can follow the white path, but then there's the Palo practitioners, which I would have to call a dark path, even if it's not, I don't know, it might even be considered as such by them. I haven't delved into it because it's too far from what I'm actually interested in doing.
Yeah. Okay, so Verenia says, thank you for the advice. Have you also seen alternative timelines for Earth? Do alternative timelines exist? Well, the answer is yes, they do, but do we care? I mean, I can't get there and stay there. I might be able to see potential possibilities and stuff like that, but the important life that you're leading is the one that you have, and I've seen some psychic readers use the idea of alternative timelines to sort of dismiss what's happening in the present. I had a childhood friend who had gone to someone who said that in an alternate timeline, her and her boyfriend were happy and they had children and all this other stuff, but in this timeline, he and a bunch of friends got together and did things to her without her permission of a sexual nature. So I would say she needed to deal with the fact that there was something wrong with her relationship in this timeline and not look to other timelines and dismiss them, the ones that are happening here. So like with anything like that, try to be as grounded in this reality as you can. If you want to explore them, remember what reality you're coming from. If you suddenly switch timelines, if you can let us know, that would be awesome, because that would be great to find out. But
just how do you do that from the other timeline, I wonder?
I don't know exactly. That's why I said, if you can do that. So Jonathan says, thanks for the idea of putting vodka in a spray bottle. I might use that, but not the way you explain. Did the people you were working with know what was in the bottle? Well, yeah, because I used it as a cleansing spray, like, the sage spray. We never mentioned the vodka because it's not drinkable in that form.
And then it evaporates out and just leaves the nice odor behind.
Right. It doesn't work very well. I suppose you could make a sage concoction alcoholic or something, but bleh. I wouldn't like that, even if I drank alcohol,
Sage
which
flavored
I don't
alcohol.
much. Yes. Nadja says, there have been a lot of warnings about working with Fae and them being too mischievous. In what case should we stay away from the practice? How to build a relationship that is more friendly? Okay, so for one thing, the Fae don't work for us. They can choose to work with us in concert, but it's up to them to decide, not up to us. They are their own being, It's sort of like our relationship with our deities is like we work together if we find one that's compatible. If you want to let them know that you are open to and interested in the possibility, then you can give them offerings, go in the woods, take care of something that's alive, stick crystals or other types of things on the ground, give them a small little statue, talk to them and whatnot. But the main thing is, unless you're working on yourself and clearing yourself, they're not going to be very interested in having much of a relationship with you. And because, we have a lot of misconceptions about things. And
from their perspective.
From their point of view and from mine as well. I mean, humans have made jumped to a lot of conclusions. We seem to have this idea in our head that we're the most intelligent being on the planet, which is not actually true. We're just the loudest announcing ourselves. And there's a lot of different forms of consciousness out there. So, be cautious and be respectful. And if you can help out an animal or, another living thing, plant or animal, they'll take notice of you and work on your own energy. And if your energy is good, then they might approach. I don't know exactly what it is about me that they like, but they've liked me since I was little, and so they've always been around. Mary Wick says, by the way, I'm about your all's age. It's nice to see others online that are my age regarding witchcraft. Yay! I'm older than him, though. He's a youngster. Like 14 years younger than me almost. So, yeah. Adam says, I have heard from a Christian occultist who claims superior knowledge to others that there are only two classifications of spirits, infernal and angelic, and that spirits like Fae are just demons. Yeah, well, that's their perspective, and anyone who's not with them is against them. And I disagree. I think that is a truncated view of reality and has little validity when it comes to the actual universe and what it's up to. We can define it and say whatever we want about it, but it's still the equinox, whether we like it or not. And that's what I'm talking about, is that the church has vilified the Fae on purpose because they don't want us to be able to connect with other forms of existence that they have no control over, and they have no say over what's going on. They want to control the narrative completely, and the only narrative that's allowed is the one that they permit. And I'm a little bit too independent for that, and I don't care how much knowledge that person thinks that they have. Their knowledge base is narrowed, and that's maybe really great in their knowledge base, but that's all there is. So that's my opinion. Nadja says, interesting, I've always done this kind of thing since I was little. I just like what you said, that we are just coexisting, not working together. Ian has weighed in about proving angels and demons exist, and they may exist. I certainly have seen angels, but I don't think that they're just Christian property. I think that there's a lot more of it, more to that than that too. Another truncated thing. So Verania says, thank you so much clearing things about fairy folk. Have you also ever had experience with elves? Well, yeah, that would be what we call the she. They're the human size and sometimes even somewhat bigger than human, tall, thin, white-haired folk, and we have a couple here. And they are still considered fae, so, again, it's human definition of things. But the Irish call them the she. They were the original gods of Ireland. So Adam says, I'm not trying to cause a disagreement. I'm just simply asking why she doesn't think so. Well, I think I answered that correctly. Hopefully I'm not going to get kicked off, though.
Not the angels, demons being a different classification.
Yeah. Ayurvedic says, would you like to, share, come back here?
Well, I was just pointing out, to Adam that I didn't think you were trying to cause a disagreement, but it seemed the easiest way to make a point that we're talking about somebody talking about what might as well be fictional knowledge. If they can't prove that angels and demons exist, then what right do they have to say that everything falls in those two classifications? I wasn't taking umbrage with what you said, but against the person who told you that, who whenever somebody uses the word superior with regard to themselves, makes me worried on its own.
Well, that's true of me as well. Anyone who thinks they know everything and are absolutely certain
So
of their knowledge.
That's okay. I didn't think you were trying to cause a disagreement, and I didn't mean to sound negative on that, but it was just kind of an unanswerable question.
Mm-hmm. So Ayurvedic says, would you like to share a bit about your relationship with and working with the goddess Diana? She came to me at a time when I needed much protection. They always choose me rather than me them. Yeah, that's actually the better way it works most with me. Most often it's them that have chosen me. Artemis is the Greek version of Diana, and I certainly have had a relationship with the various moon goddesses here and there, Selene as well. I don't know how to describe the relationship except that there is one, and I've always been affected by the moon and felt the energy, and I've seen some pretty cool things on the moon and outside when we were at that place on that power spot. I actually saw on the mental and astral plane the different colors coming out of the moon as it was rising up, and how the trees reacted to the energy of the moonlight, and how I knew the moon was coming before I could see it, because the trees were putting out streamers of energy that were like reaching out towards the horizon, and then the moon came up and the two streams of energy met each other. So really was interesting to me to see that. But I'm not sure how else, how to describe my relationship with the different deities that I work with. It's like, doing the drawing down the moon, I would not focus on a specific moon deity, but just on the general goddess energy when I was doing that. And so the goddess would come in, the moon would be the vehicle through which it would happen. So Shiloh says, recently I've been getting a bunch of dreams with random people I don't know, yet feel deeply connected to and very connected to the moon. Could that mean anything? Well, that could mean that you're about to meet some people, or that you're dreaming about people you have a connection with from another lifetime. And maybe you're connecting with them, but you haven't met them here yet. I don't know. But it's always interesting when that happens. Maybe it's just to let you know you're not alone, and that there are others out there that are like you. And whether you meet them in person or not, the similar spirit and energy. And Nadja says, my clairvoyance has been more intense, knowing, feeling what will happen. How do I keep dark, paranoid thoughts from playing with my mind? It's hard to live in peace if I don't know which is which. So, groundedness and having other people around you, checking in, having people verify the information that you're getting, trying not to take yourself too seriously. When I first started getting premonitions when I was a teenager, it was very upsetting to me, because one in particular where I knew that there was going to be an accident and these people were probably going to die, and I didn't know who they were, and I didn't know why it was happening to them, and I didn't know why I was knowing about it, because I couldn't tell anybody or do anything to stop it. And so learning how to let go of control and know what it is you can and can't intervene in is something that's important to learn. But it's not easy. I understand that totally. So meditate. Adam says there was a second part to the question. I asked her opinion why she doesn't think so. I don't think that angels and demons are real. I didn't say that. We are not sure what you meant by that, so ask your second part of your question again if I didn't answer it. Desideratum says, angels predate Christianity, but the Catholic Church conveniently forgets that. Yeah, I would agree. Hey, Desideratum, nice to see you. Mia says, how often should I ground? Must be every day? Yes. It should be all the time, actually. I mean, the more grounded you are, the more control you have over all of your abilities and everything that happens. But especially whenever you're feeling disassociated or confused or off kilter or off center, or you've encountered a toxic person or had a toxic conversation, and you can ground, if you don't have an opportunity to sit down on the earth kind of thing, you can ground energy out of you just by putting your hands in running water and let the water pull the energy out of your body to help ground you back to yourself. But yes, grounding is something that we should all be doing every day. And
kind of make it a habit. Anything I want to do every day, I just make it a habit so it happens. And then sometimes that backfires, like when I lock my wife out of the house by accident because I have such a habit of locking the door. But other than that, it's generally a good way.
That's why I now come out here with a set of keys, just in case. And since then, he's not done it, so that's what it is.
I think I finally remembered.
Jonathan says, Adam, I think the conversation you are describing gets bogged down in labels and categorizing things, easily missing true understanding because people are trying to be cleverer and holier than thou.
Yeah, and that's basically what I didn't say, but probably would have been a much better way of saying it.
Adam says, it's okay, guys. I just didn't want to offend you all. You all are awesome, by the way. Thank you, Adam. And I wasn't offended. It's just like there are people out there who believe that, and they believe it wholeheartedly. So, I understand. Ayurvedic says, wow, thank you for sharing about your experience with the moon. Sounds lovely. Yeah, that was just so cool. I really liked seeing that. And as I'm describing it out loud to Ian, he's going like, that's exactly what Barton says it looks like. I'm like, really? Okay, awesome. I'm getting it correct. Madam Isadora says, hello. What sorts of plants, herbs, crystals, oils do you suggest working with for Mabon? Any of them, because...
Plants, herbs, crystals, and oils?
All of them. Okay, it's a harvest festival, so, one of the things that we have done is make a peace candle on Mabon to carry us through the dark winter months, so in case we need a little light later, we have that. It's about, it's so individual. There is no right or wrong way to celebrate when it comes to that, with any of these things, really, when it comes right to it. So it's what connects you to the earth and connects you to the season. If sage and rosemary are the plants that connect you to the season, use them. Food, corn, grain, breads are very popular when it comes to Mabon because of it being a harvest festival. So it's about abundance and plentifulness. It's like to gather together before the winter months set in, and in the old days the hunting was over. It's like you had what you had, and if you didn't have enough, then you were stuck. So you celebrated the fact that you had what you had and hoped it was enough to get you through until harvest and hunting began again the next year. So these are things that are based off of tribal environments and villages and stuff like that. So Jill says, you're okay, Adam. Good to ask things. I'm still learning new things. Johnny says, any tips for mental projection? Good practice techniques. Closing your eyes, visualizing the place you're trying to see in your mind. When I do like distance healing and stuff, I like to have exact addresses and locations. Like when we talked about last week, when I went to the infant up at the hospital in Portland, and I want my daughter to give me the room number, the floor number, and everything else so that I could be precise, because that helps me. Not everybody apparently needs that. They could just think of somebody on the planet and bam, they're there. But I like to know that's where I'm going if I'm going to do something specifically for a individual. So I sometimes even go the extra mile and travel in my mind over the highway, even though I know I don't need to. So it's all going to be a matter of your
Got a lot of good questions.
What works for you. Ruth says, Kali came to when I needed her the most. Love Kali. Yes, I have a Kali statue in my room.
Now this one,
the one about the 72 angels.
Desideratum, yes. I'm not familiar with the angels of the Shem operation, but it wouldn't surprise me if one was the flip side of the other, because And Barton's hierarchy, all the hierarchy he gives are the positive beings associated with a sphere, but he also comments that each one has an equivalent negative being to do the negative tasks associated with that sphere. So opposites are kind of typical, and he gives the 72 spirits associated with the Mercury zone.
And we think that that may have been where that came from.
Well, yeah, or the angels, so there are obviously 72 on the flip side that are the negative contra beings, so I would say it's likely, even though I'm not familiar with that Shem operation, but it wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Nod just says, it's so fun to listen to you two and very helpful and assuring. I'm very grateful for this, really. You're welcome, and we're glad. We aim to please. Ayurvedic says, I think it helps the balance a lot, filling up yourself with light, as you mentioned in some other video as well. It eases up the fear, etc. Well, and also knowing that you can't be harmed. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you're doing the traveling, you can call upon your higher guardian spirit for protection, or your guardian angel for protection, to make sure you don't get yourself in a situation that you are not ready for.
Yeah, and if your visualization is good, you can let that light come down and cleanse negativity and stuff right from you, and let it, like, push it away right down into the earth as if it didn't exist, and you can use that as a nice clearing with that.
So Jill says, have a great day, everyone. Got to go. Thank you for sharing. Love the videos. Thank you for being here, Jill. We always like having everybody who comes to visit. Naja says, do you have any experience with chaos magic and how to wield it?
Nothing out of me.
What could be pros or cons?
No, nothing about it.
Well, I've not done chaos magic. I read the chaos magic book, and I really did like the turkey curse a lot. I thought that one was perfect, but not really either. I guess I'm not a person who enjoys causing chaos, so maybe I have an assumption about what chaos magic is and how it works. I don't know, but I'm not an expert by any means, or a practitioner. Desiderata says, I don't care for demonic energies and won't work with them, but I do accept nature is neither purely positive nor negative. We need both, yin and yang, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to add a little something to that, though, that keep in mind, unless you're using the word, it's hard deciding which are demonic energies. I know what you mean. I would put it more that energies are not in harmony with your living or with perhaps life at all, because these are the energies and beings and things that break things down and destroy and take things apart and cause them to disintegrate so they can be regenerated as new things. So even calling them demonic is judging them. It's like if you met, say, Barton lists the Death Angel in one of his books, his Spheres. If you bumped into that Death Angel accidentally, you might be killed, or you tried to invoke it improperly or something stupid like that. But it wouldn't be under any intentions or anything. It would be the fact that you just couldn't stand up to being exposed to that kind of destructive energy. So it's yeah, I hesitate to even use the word demonic, even though that's the words that are used, demons and aliens. I just assume they mean positive working spirits and negative working spirits, but try to keep the emotional judgment out of it as a good description, even though I certainly don't want to expose myself to a lot of that, or any at all, necessarily.
Well, you definitely do have to make your
valuable
choice
purpose
of what works with you.
Yeah.
So Adam says, okay, the second part is to explain from a occult point of view a list of factors why the Fae exists as its own unique classification as a spirit in terms of its own properties. For example, I have heard that one property of theirs is their energy field and another property is their consciousness. I do not know how true both of these things are, though, as I am not experienced with this. Well, for one thing, intellectualizing another life form is sort of not necessarily helpful. we like to intellectualize things because we want to categorize them and so forth. But, we're using this from our own perspective and our point of view and trying to make it fit some preconceived notions of what makes something different from us. So I would say I've encountered them. I've encountered a lot of different kinds of them. Last week, before our last live show, I had like 30 or 40 of them in my bedroom. And they seem to be just very interested in the fact that I can see their faces, and they want to make sure I see them all as different. So I know that they exist, just as I know, there's different kinds of trees and different kinds of ants and, animals and stuff like that, and that they have a consciousness that's unique to them. And I know that because I know it, I've met trees that have different forms of consciousness and stones and so forth. And so, like, our definition of something, of what is conscious and what makes something real, is usually limited to our own perception of reality, and we have a very narrow view on the universe. We know that only 4%, I think, of all matter in the universe, maybe 5%, is physical, the part that we can see. The rest of the universe is made of stuff we can't see. We can sometimes infer its existence by how it reacts to the visible universe that we can see, but we now know that the universe is composed of a whole bunch of stuff, the dark energy and the dark matter that's invisible to us, but it is powerful and it's there. So we see in the narrow band of light, some of us see differently than other people, and I think that's why I can see them and sense them and feel them. There are other senses that some people can have, and some people can develop other senses, and some people just have a hard time with it. And it doesn't mean that just because it's a smaller group of humans that have those senses, that what they're experiencing and seeing is wrong. And so one of the reasons why I stay away from intellectualizing things is because I work as an empath on feelings and emotions, and if I see something, and I can tell if it's me or not me, and that's a thing in and of itself. A lot of people cannot tell the difference between them and something outside of them because they think everything is them. That's sort of how we are when we're born. Everything in the universe is us. And sometimes we never get out of that. We don't get away from that way of seeing the world, so we think that everything is us. And then it makes it very difficult to actually encounter another being on its own terms and see it for who and what it actually is. So one of the reasons for doing ritual and working on the self is to get to know what is actually you. That way, when you meet not you, you recognize it as not you. And that's the first step. If you can't recognize it as not you, there's nowhere to go. And us deciding whether they have validity or not with some intellectual exercise or properties or whatever doesn't change the reality of the fact that they're there, and I know they're there because I've seen them, interacted with them, helped them, met them, had them try and help me. It's like there's an entire universe of interaction that I have, that I base my assumptions on, which are less assumptions and more, in my view anyway. So that's about as far into that as I think I can get at the moment. But it's certainly a good conversation to have because, that's part of our issue with the whole planet, really, when it comes down to it, thinking that we are in charge. So, Verenia says, do Akashic records exist? Yes, they do exist, and I've seen them, but they're difficult to remember. Madam Isadora says, love the idea of a peace candle for Mabon. A peace candle to bring light and peace through the winter is a beautiful sentiment given the state of the world. Yes, it's one of the reasons why we started doing it. And I'm sure I'm going to make my own. I usually use a blue candle. I may be out of blue candles. I'll have to check and see. And if not, I'll use a white candle this year. And I usually use lavender oil to charge it up, to anoint it with. Mia says, I had a vision of a black lump floating down the hallway of my apartment. My mom saw something like this live but larger. What do you think it could be? a black lump, an energy ball of some kind. It could be a shadow person or a shadow thing. Could be starting to have the ability to see things, but it hasn't come into focus. I don't know. Desert Ram says Shem operation is Kabbalah, ceremonial magic kind of stuff.
Yeah, I should have realized to talk about the Shemhem Farash.
Ah.
Which I just put in there.
I see.
Down
Okay.
below. It just wasn't connecting in my head.
I see. Okay.
So, but yeah. So I think that's an intriguing possibility, and I will actually investigate that since I have all those books here.
Okay, so Ayurvedic says you mentioned books you've written in another video. What books are they on these topics? No, they're not books. I'm a co-author because I was the channel for all the material that came through, and I did have some of my own words in there. It was my partner, David, who actually wrote the books and put the Moida material together. I was, unbeknownst to myself, a somewhat famous New Age channel. It sort of came as a big shock to me later when I found out. It's always funny when you're in the middle of something, you don't know how it's being perceived. So it is strictly on the time when I was channeling. I have like 3 notebooks of the channeled sessions that we did. It's about 1,000 pages, small typed pages of material. And David he was the one who typed it all up. He recorded all of our sessions and he typed them up. And then he did a magazine called, I think it was called something Starseed, Messages from the Starseed or something. I can't remember now. Anyway, yeah. So if you want to see about my channeling and then his perspective on who I am, which does not jive with mine at all, he's got about 4 or 5 books out now. And you can look up David Letts and Siofra Bradigan, and all the books that he has, I think, self-published will be up there. I don't know that I recommend people reading them because they certainly don't represent who I've become. And that was his complaint, actually, when we were friends on Facebook, was that I had changed too much. So he unfriended me, which is like, okay. So he's kind of like in this narrow portion of my experience. And I don't do the channeling much anymore. There's not really a need for it, and I was never a trance medium, so I learned a lot from it. It was a really good experience for me. But so Jessica says, hi Siofra, any tips for cooking blessings and good energy into food? Well, I'm chronically ill, and I was thinking that might be a nice extra thing to do for myself and eventually for my loved ones too. Using your hands.
Yeah.
Focusing energy into it, or charging up an ingredient before you put it in.
Yeah, charging it as you make it. Barton recommends it as a daily practice, in particular charging up your food with things you want, whether it be success or love or healing or whatever, before you take them in.
Yeah. And you use universal light and your imagination in order to get the properties that you want, but also, like, depending on what herbs you use for cooking, you can look up what their medicinal properties are too, and think about that as well and add that to what you're doing. Like sage is obviously something we use for getting rid of negative energy as a magical tool. So adding sage to a dish you could add that energy to the dish, that the person who is eating like a sage chicken or whatever you put it in is like, as they consume the food, the herb is going into their body and banishing any negative energy they might have as illness or emotion, or discontent or confusion or whatever. And you can do that with anything at all. Yeah, that would be how I would recommend it. Ayurvedic says, I just love the ways you explain things. You both are so awesome. Thank you. Desert Autumn says, I hate the D word too. That would be the demon word. Yeah, okay. Shay says, hello, Siofra and Ian. Ducking in during my lunch break. Lots of love to you both. Hi, Shay. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning. Jonathan says, chaos magic isn't about chaos. It's creating your own magical system to serve a purpose. Correspondences, sounds, numbers, etc. Extremely effective in the short term. I really don't like it.
Well,
yeah.
Okay. What I would think about that approach is why do you want to throw away your old system every time and come up with a new one? It seems like it makes more sense to me to keep on working with the same tools and making them more and more effective as you go. That's just me, though.
Well, I probably wouldn't like it either. Desert Rom says, we all have a good wolf and a bad wolf. Which one do we feed? That's what they say, but I don't think that's necessarily true. You can turn your bad wolf into a powerful animal that will protect you, and you don't have to have either one.
Exactly. I completely agree with
that. That's the point of the transformation, the cup transformation exercise. That's the point of shadow work. That's the reason for doing that is to turn what you, in a psychological or mental sense, perceive as being something negative and not useful into something that you want and something that's useful and that will help you. So, yeah. But again, they like that one. I've seen that on every TV show.
One needs to remember these are all referred to human judgments as far as what are good or bad. It's considered what's good or bad for our society at the time. Anyway, sorry.
Yes.
I don't want to go off on that.
Ferrenia says, your stories about fairy folk are so interesting. Do you have any more stories that you can tell? I have no idea because I can't remember all the ones I've already told. So I can't go like, oh, there's a gap right there. It's like, I don't know. I just know that they've been around for a long time, and I've had numbers of encounters with them up until, up through my life now. So Naja says, could the kind sir please spell the energy he was talking about, since I couldn't recognize the word about crystal sound?
Well, yeah, that was talking about the potential Kundalini energy, which is just a huge-ass subject. Sorry to use that phrase, it just kind of slipped out, but yeah, you could certainly look up the sounds with reference to that system. It's here, I'll write it out.
Yeah, he'll write out how to spell Kundalini. That is something that we both have some experience with as well.
But it's oops. Why did it not go out there? Did it? Oh, maybe it went to the bottom. Yeah, it did, okay. So that's how you spell it, Kundalini. That's, in my case, we got Shaktipat from a guru, and that's why I get sounds and things now since then. And that's the Kundalini, but it's a huge subject.
So Adam says, what spiritual realms have you visited? Have you ever visited any other paradise realms like heaven before? Can you please fully describe everything and all that the experiences you had there and spirits? You're asking for my entire life story plus all of my past lives too? Wow, in one session. I don't think that's going to happen. That's too much of that. I mean, there are so many different kinds of realms out there. I visit the planetary realms fairly frequently. Friday there was a comet that was coming closest to the sun during this particular pass, so I went to visit it. I like visiting the comets. I have a ball, a glass ball filled with fluid condenser that I gather comet energy into. For what purpose, I don't know.
Somebody said our echo has started again.
Uh-oh. Does that mean my thing turned itself on? Let me look. It says it's not using... Oh. It is. It started using the microphone. Dumbass thing.
But the one that...
Okay, that one's not on.
Go to OBS.
Okay.
Now. Okay. Testing, testing. Well, our microphone is still working. So if we're not getting sound through, it's almost needs to be something on the settings here.
Oh no, we don't hear anything. Everyone says we're muted, so.
Somehow you muted it, dear.
That's the built-in audio.
Well,
And I unmuted this one, so this is probably working again. That was the one I muted, and that's when we lost it all.
Yeah, but somebody would tell us.
Yes, they can hear. Okay,
good.
So go back over there.
So we still got...
Ah. It is working, but has so much echo. We thought we had that fixed.
Hang on.
That's the one I muted.
One off. That one's on. That one's off. The only thing I can think of is either it's a setting.
Okay, they say it's not disturbing, we're good.
I don't know.
It's no echo now. Okay, so we're going to stop trying to fix it at this point. Shay says it's good now, so whatever we did, it worked. All right, back to what we're doing. So where were we? All right, so whatever was happening is where we're at now. If you don't do lust spells for hire, do you at least create lust talismans for others? No. I'm sorry. I don't think you're understanding us. We don't do that stuff. We don't believe in subsuming someone else's will. Any spell or magical working that would try to force someone's will to a direction that anybody else wanted besides them is not okay with us. I consider that the same as a date rape drug.
Yeah, if people want to do that themselves, they're welcome to, but it's not something we personally aspire to practice.
Okay. Are you talking about wall crawlers? That's what I was thinking. Is this what you imagined the future would be like? No. That's a hard no. Not from when I was way down in the past and I saw this time of dark and emptiness and I thought I would come and bring light to it. And I didn't know what the hell I was thinking when I decided to do that. I did not understand at all. No, this is not what I imagined. I'm still waiting for the future to catch up with my idea of what it should be. And it hasn't gotten there yet. Okay, so I think I was doing a paranormal show thing. We're not doing paranormal investigations because of COVID. And I'm not going to someone's house because we have so many people that are against the vaccine and don't believe in it here in our community. I cannot trust anybody right now except for me. So, right. So, Adam says, can you explain fully why grounding is so important to do as a prerequisite for channeling? Why is it necessary to ground before channeling occurs? And what would happen if one doesn't ground and try to...
Well, you get mixed up, a bunch of your energy mixed up with the energy you're channeling. I'll let Menorah explain that better, but...
If you want to be able to come back to your own body and control what's going on, it depends on what kind of channeling you're doing, too. I mean, if you're doing trance mediumship, then you can't ground, and that's the problem with trance mediums. They have no control over what's going on with their body. They have no memory of what happened to them, which means that they're basically a mouth and hand puppet for a spirit. And if they're lucky, they have a positive spirit being that's in charge of what's going on and protects them. And if they're not, who knows what can happen. And even if they're lucky, they're giving away a huge amount of their experience in their life to allow something else to communicate through them. And whether it's interesting for people to listen to or not, I think it's harmful to the person who's doing it. So I was never a trance medium. I did not like that idea. I met and saw too many people who were, and thought, what would be the point of having a life if that's all I did with it? Would be to just check out and let somebody else do their thing. So grounding is important because you're taking ownership over your own physical form, and that way you're not relinquishing your rights to decide what happens to it. I would say that'd be one way of putting it. Tanya says, agreed, don't mess with others' will. Not hearing an echo now, good. Brianna says, have you met or experienced anyone from other planets, aliens? I've met spirit beings from other of our planets, and they're the only ones I've actually communicated with. I've not met an alien being that I've communicated with from outside of our solar system. How to safely raise Kundalini? Well, the sacred tree meditation is a good place to start. It will safely open up your chakras and prepare them for the possibility of the Kundalini to rise without trying to being harsh and without trying to force things to happen when you're not ready. And it'll help you learn grounding, shielding, and centering at the same time, and so it'll keep you safe. So that's what I recommend, and if Kundalini happens, it'll mean that it's ready.
Yeah, I would say there's two things about the Kundalini that I would add to that. One is there are two approaches taken. The ascetics take a severe approach where they force it up, and the other method recommended, which I drastically prefer, rather than shoving it up, then it has to force its way through all your obstacles, and that can be a very destructive and traumatic process. But to sweep away the obstacles so that it rises gently would be my recommendation, and that's going to take years.
So Ayurvedic says, I wish you would have courses like about different planes, etc., one for each time or so. Okay. That's why I put out a whole bunch of videos. There's like more than 100 of them out there, and I've been trying to cover every subject possible and share what I have learned and what I do know. Mia says, do you have a familiar? Not now, at the moment, except for spirit. I have two power animals. They're in spirit, a bear and a panther, black panther. And so those are my familiars, but they're not like physical. So Jonathan says, Adam, grounding connects a practitioner to reality. Losing your mind is a very serious danger in following this path. I have personally messed around too close to that precipice. I got lucky. Good, I'm glad that you didn't go over the edge. That would not be fun. Verena says, thank you so much, both of you, for the advice. Yeah, so I'm not sure what it is that we lost what was I explaining when we were doing that, but on the subject of the paranormal shows, generally speaking, it seems to me that they're just there to try and gather evidence and get viewers. They're supposedly trying to prove that the paranormal exists. I don't need to prove that to myself because I already know it's real, and I don't care about trying to prove it to someone else. If they want to believe in it or not believe in it, that's completely their choice. So when I go on a paranormal investigation, my focus is figure out what's going on. Why are the people having trouble living with whatever this is? How can I change it so that the people are going to be okay? How can I help the spirit if it's in distress so it gets where it needs to go? So on the subject of seeing other planes, every time I've crossed the spirit over, I've seen their version of heaven. And they're all different, every single one of them. I've not seen any two the same. Except in TV shows. They're the only ones that have a consistent view of heaven. So Ayurvedic says, oh, I haven't gotten to them all yet. What are your thoughts on the Freemasons? They have their own house right beside where I live, and they work magic too, as far as I know. It depends on the type of Freemasons that you're encountering. I think only the Scottish temple is really doing magic,
well, in
per se.
general, yes, but a lot of Freemasons get involved in the study through getting involved with the symbolism, the Masonic symbolism, which is basically an occult, magical type of symbolism, and that gets them interested in investigating things. So you do find, I would say, a larger proportion of occultists among the Masons. Freemasonry is in no way negative. Pretty much knowing what goes on in there. The only thing I would object to is that standard Freemasonry has an issue with letting women in.
Well, there's that, but also around here at least, the Freemasons are basically a business club for men.
Yeah,
to get together and have influence with one another and help one another out, which I don't have a problem with them helping each other out. But
it's a business society. You get together to...
Unless you get in with a group of actual occultists who know what's going on.
And I have never met any actual occultists out of the Masons I've met that I've known about, half dozen or so.
Okay, Desert says these crawler things are purely physical. They eat, drink water, and I've heard some have actually been hurt by some people who were scared of them. Okay, so then I'm not sure what it is that you're talking about, and I haven't encountered one. Adam says, is there any aspect of exorcism that must be done on the astral that cannot be done by physical means? How exactly do you remove an entity on the astral, and is there an ultimate method to do this? Well, building up the self is really the best defense against any of those kinds of things.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it means how you remove an entity on the astral. I assume that means one that's being parasitic type of thing?
Like vampire type of thing?
Or something, or, yeah.
I mean, really, when it comes down to it, nothing can do anything to you without your permission, whether you know you're giving permission or not. So if somebody's having a problem with that, building up their, their sense of self and their understanding of the power that we innately have, the natural authority that we carry, will get them to go away. But in lieu or without that, natural authority, you can use natural authority on a being and make them leave. But I really cannot explain that to you, not in this kind of a setting. I don't do exorcisms. I've had something try to take me over and I kicked it out. That was because, this is my body and you can't have it because it belongs to me.
And it depends too. Circumstances would matter because if you're talking like kicking out one of the Santeria deities that actually come down into the living body of a practitioner, you'd have to go about that probably in a different way.
Well, yeah, when I got ridden by Oya, the high priest that was there at the bimbe I attended had specific ways to get me back and have her leave. That was bizarre. Yeah. That was just very bizarre. So Verenia says, amazing to know that you have met have ETs from our solar system. What was your experience like? What did they look like? Okay, so to clarify, I mean beings that exist in the spheres, the planetary spheres. So I've met Venusian spirits, Martian spirits, Jupiterian spirits, Plutonian spirits. The Pluto guys look very, very odd. They're the strangest looking things that I've encountered. They're 9 feet tall and mostly just a head with black curtains from here down, and their head is like a skull and with a thin parchment skin. It's almost like there's just a little skin on a skull, not much there, and then glowing green eyes, like no eyeballs, just glowing orbs of green. And I'm not sure where the guy who was just all glowing green came from. I was never quite sure what sphere he was from, but those two hung around with me for quite a while. So they're not extraterrestrials in the sense of out of our solar system. They are spirit beings that are part of our entire collective of beings and
don't have physical
bodies. Don't have physical bodies. They exist in a different sphere, and they have different energies and different things that they do. So Jonathan says, you said that the assembly of spirits on that busy night was the most you have encountered in one experience. It hit me afterwards that it's kind of crazy because you have many experiences. Well, yeah. Although, to be fair, the two-headed dragon, when I encountered that being, and the number of fairies that came in, probably outnumbered the ones that were in my bedroom the other night. But this is like the most since then, and that was such a special case. I mean, out in the middle of the woods in Monterey with a giant two-headed creature, and survived, and they came in and asked me to tell them stories, so I was being a storyteller, telling them about the Lord and the Lady and creation and all existence and all this other stuff they wanted to hear about. But yeah, I didn't even think about that as the number of them, because there were a lot of those guys. But yeah, I feel good. Desert Autumn says, mediumship, not trance, though, would be great videos. I think I did a thing on my channeling, but I'll look and see if I did or not. I might have done a video about it. Mary Broadwell says, hi, just getting off work. Glad to catch the last few minutes. Happy Mabon, everyone. Love the herbal spray video. You're welcome. Someone asked me how to do a demonstration on how to put it together, and I'm like, take a bottle, stick the herbs in the bottle, pour the vodka on the herbs, let it sit for a few years. That's about it. I'm not sure how I could demonstrate that. Ayurvedic says, I've met the Greys, purplish thin. Do you know more about them? Some say that could be Fae or elementals, really. Well, I don't know about that. If they're the ones I don't like to talk about, they're definitely not Fae. So, I have nothing more to say on the subject, because that's like a whole different channel. John says, hi, Mary. Nadja says, have you seen aliens? Gray, but with lines for eyes and 2 legs, but no hands, visible, tall. No, I haven't. Nadja says, my sister thinks she probably saw one in front of our house. Okay. Nothing I've seen hasn't had at least a ambulatory ability, and the mouth might be small, but it's there. Madam Isadora says, wow, I'm near Monterey. Love hearing stories about local areas. Well, be careful if you go for a walk in the woods. So, if you have this experience, for me it happened like just before the sun went down, and all of a sudden, like, the shadows in the woods became dangerous. And there is like it predates humanity by probably tens of thousands of years, this spirit being. It's very large. It has a head at each end. And if you do encounter it, the rule is don't run. You have to stand your ground and not be afraid and let it come to you. And the first head will approach you. And then you have to be able to stand still with that first large head in front of you and wait for the second head to come around. And when the 2 heads see each other, then it releases you. And then you're good. And then becomes an ally. So just as a pure thing. Adam says, what do Venusian spirits look like? Can you please describe them all? He wants me to write like 1,000 books here in 2 minutes. They're pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, they're literally, the ones that Barden mentions are a couple of hundred of them or something in there. And they are all important beings of the Venusian plane, and there are literally thousands and thousands of others. They're as prolific as people, so you can't really, it's like, okay, here's the population of the earth, find somebody named John.
That's good.
Anyway, they are, yeah.
So Mary says, can you tell me about the god that is honored for Mabon? Well, this is when we eat him. We consume his body. The earth god, Mabon is actually the name in the bread. Yeah, Mabon is actually the name of a deity in Ireland, so you can look that up and see specific stuff about him. We did go to, passion play about Mabon and the goddess losing him and looking for him and all this other stuff, which was the Irish version of the story where, he wandered off and the goddess was asking all the fish and wildlife and so forth, that they'd seen her son, kind of thing. So, yeah, Green Man becomes corn guy and eat him. Adam, in your opinion, are there any type classification of spirits that are more beautiful than angels? I've heard that angels are blindingly beautiful. Do other spirits compare to their beauty like nymphs? There's a lot of things out there that are beautiful. Angels definitely are, but there's lots of other things as well. And I don't know what classification they are. They're just beautiful.
You know, a lot of times the way people see them depends to a certain amount on their own perceptions and inbuilt preconceived notions and things like that. So they can vary a fair bit for different people.
Yeah.
I mean, you get the interpretation of what your brain can interpret from what you're actually perceiving.
So, for example, my spirit guardian, Moida, is very beautiful to look upon and reminds one of the Virgin Mary. She has that kind of energy. In fact, the first time I saw her as an adult floating above the garage where we were having our car up on a lift, that I was in the car on the lift, and she was standing there in a very typical kind of pose, a Virgin Mary kind of pose. That's what I got from seeing her. And I said, "You look a lot like someone else I've heard a lot about," not wanting to mention names. And she said, "I know." Very terse. It's like, I need say no more. I know I look like her. Okay then.
Well, I found
Fair.
a lot of the deities to be like that too, because if they really want to, they can transmit, you know, an entire book into your brain by saying one word. They can just communicate the information through that. It's amazing and cool.
And certainly there are plenty of nature spirits that are also beautiful to behold. Some of the the larger human-sized fairies I've seen is like when we were out at on the power spot, I saw what I guess would have been called the Queen of the Fairies in that area, and it's difficult to describe, but she had the most beautiful features I've ever seen on any female form in my life. So, you know. So Mary says, "I've been noticing that I am heavy with honoring the goddesses rather than the gods, so I'm trying to be more balanced." Oh, good, I guess. I mean, take your time. There was a long time where the goddess was the only thing I was interested in and the only thing I was comfortable in. It took a long time before the gods started coming around. And that's because I had my stuff to work through because of the torture and whatnot that I went through. And so, you know, part of it in the beginning was having a female deity that I could connect with, when until then there was only like the male energy kind of stuff, and it helped to empower me to be more of who I am, and find my own female power and so forth. And so there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to like be politically correct when it comes to paganism and magic. In my opinion, it's like an individual journey for each one of us. And when it came to the point that the Dagda was a god I could get behind and like as a father god, I was very happy that I got to that point where I could identify with the father god and not have my father in this life interfere with that relationship. So I considered that was a good sign of my own healing.
Yeah, it's kind of like being balanced is good, but make sure you absorb enough of what you need before you go to the other polarity.
When you're ready.
Or whatever. Yeah, make sure you're ready.
Because really, in some views, the goddess is both the male and the female aspect anyway. So it all depends upon which end of it you're coming in from.
If you're not, you know, you'll...
So Madam Isadora says, "I've heard stories about the shadow people. John Steinbeck refers to them in one of his stories. Thank you for sharing your story." You're welcome. Ayurvedic says, "Oh, I got curious now. So the so-called gray have several times showed themselves, then backed away, and once touched my arm quickly, then it left. I don't know what to make of that. Neither do I. So, you know, be cautious." Mary says, "Thank you for explaining that Mabon is the name of a god. Didn't know that. I'll look it up, look up more about him." Ayurvedic says, do you also work with your ancestors, aside from Fey ancestors? Not really, because most of my ancestors were assholes. So I'm not interested in having anything to do with them.
Yeah.
And if they're way, way far back and they're not assholes, I don't know who they are. So, And I have plenty of other things to work with at this point, so I don't feel the need to do ancestor worship. Yeah, so that would be the answer to that. Ray Agnes says, I come from a long line of mediums, but I'm the only one to fully embrace it. My son has started seeing spirits now. He's 2. Is there anything special I should do to help protect him? Teach him his natural authority. Tell him that no spirit can do anything without his permission. And if he feels uncomfortable, he can tell them to leave and they will have to go. Would be the best thing that you can do for any child who sees spirits. Desideradum says, at Nod to do a search for Fresno Nightcrawler. It may be a similar creature. I don't know. I don't do the cryptids and whatever else those are called now. So, hey. So if we missed anyone's questions up when we were having the issue with apparently the sound that went in and out, now's the time to ask them. Because we're almost done. We got 8 minutes left. So, one of the things that you guys should know about me is I'm always myself. So if you're trying to trip me up by asking me the same question in a different way, you're still going to get the same response. Nadia says, I have slight trauma from night terrors, so working on myself is hard since every time I get spiritual, I get scared back into being blind to it. I can't imagine how difficult night terrors must be. And I've never had them. So I don't know what to say about it. Although you might want to make a dream catcher and see if that helps. And if you feel you need protection when you're sleeping, you might want to learn how to cast a circle and put up wards around yourself to keep them away and see if that works.
Yeah, especially your seeing self. How do I prevent myself from seeing stuff? The same thing. Get yourself warded. Watch the videos enough to know what we're talking about when we say that. There's psychic self-defense and some others.
Right. I have a bunch of videos on psychic self-defense and protecting your house and home protections and stuff like that you can look up. Mary says, thank you, Siofra and Ian. I feel the same, that I love the goddess so much, but I am welcoming divine masculine into my life similar to you. I feel like I'm ready for that. Cool. I recommend the Dagda. He's awesome. Of the father gods out there, I really like him. He's very down to earth. He has how many wives? He has the river women or whatever. He's very fertile and all this other stuff, but very protective. And he's a good provider. He has a magic cauldron that he uses with magic pigs to feed his people. He's got a giant staff that protects them and either kills the enemies or brings his people back to life. And he has a magic harp that sings the seasons into being, which is just way cool. And he is Bridget's dad. So, and we know how cool Bridget is. So he's got to be a pretty good dad to have raised Bridget, the fire water goddess of all time. And still the most famous goddess in the world, I think. Pretty much. Well, maybe not in the world because she's not in India, so never mind. At least in the Eastern or Western Europe thing and whatnot. So Adam says, did you say Queen of the Fairies was the most beautiful entity that you saw? Would you say their beauty even surpasses the most beautiful human on earth? Uh-huh.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
And as far as beauty goes, the answer for me would be yes. It's difficult to describe. She's ethereal and...
Yeah, but you know what everybody finds beautiful is not the same. I certainly think some people are rather ugly that are generally found beautiful and handsome. So, my opinion certainly doesn't agree with the majority.
No, but when it comes to spirits, it's like when you see that face, I don't think if anyone else saw the same face I did, they would come to the same conclusion.
And I agree with Nadja on there. I'd want to contact spirits that are kind.
Me too.
Yep.
I mean, boundaries, right? They're really important. So if you want to have nasty people running around doing stuff to you all the time, then you're probably okay with nasty spirits because, you're kind of attracting the same kind of energy to start with. But if you want to change your life and have kindness and generosity and empathy and love and compassion and have a peaceful heart, then what you surround yourself with is going to be important. So there's nothing wrong with picking and choosing. I don't consider that being prejudiced or anything. Higher Vedic says, you are lovely and spread so much happiness by your laugh alone. Thank you. So glad that you do these. Happy Mabon to you both. I know you love my laugh. That's one of the things I like about you. I had a former partner who liked my tears better because I was more real. When I cried, he couldn't believe in joy. I couldn't have joy and be believable. I had to be sad and miserable. So he put me back together. The great psychologist, the one who wrote the books about me. Now you know.
But he was seeing somebody else all along.
Yep. So Jonathan says, would you guys want some healing energy, good vibes for Ian's appointment tomorrow from us? Everyone here would want to pay back some kindness.
Certainly, and hopefully they'll get...
Yeah, just to make sure that the path opens up for him to get the correct surgery.
Yep.
And that they listen. That's the biggest thing. That's my concern, is that the doctor isn't going to listen. So we'll find out. Mary says, "Ooh, I love the Dagda. I didn't know, and I love Bridget. I love the idea of that fatherly protection. I'm going to look into him." Good.
Oh, he's fun to invoke.
He is fun. We got some good invocations for him.
He can also be loud.
Yes, when he comes through you, he can definitely be loud. He's raucous. Just all full of himself and in a positive way. Nadia says, good night, and thank you again. I get so excited for this. So many people sharing stories and new things. You're welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate it. Hope to hear from you soon. Well, as far as we know, we'll be here next Sunday. At least. And we have a couple of other videos to upload during the week, so we should get some stuff. Adam says, do you think you can find a spirit that... I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, Adam, we're ignoring you now. If you keep it up, you might get banned, so please be careful, because we're not into that kind of humor.
Yeah. I'm gone at this point.
All right, you're gone?
Yep.
All right. Well, I got 2 minutes left, but okay, guys.
Okay, I guess it was premature by 2 minutes.
You prematurely left. Same time next Sunday? Yeah. And I know you live in, it's probably dark where you are right now, so we'll talk to you guys later. Good vibes for you tomorrow, Ian, says Mary.
Bye.
He says thank you and bye. All right, I'm going to go before somebody else comes in and asks me a question I don't want to answer right now.